All right, welcome to a very special Archivist's Cut of The Explainer. Today we're doing something a bit different. We are going deep, I mean forensics deep, into a theological commentary. Our whole focus is going to be a detailed verse-by-verse breakdown of a really powerful passage from the Quran. The goal here is to leave absolutely no stone unturned, so let's dive in.
So here's our roadmap for this journey. We're going to kick things off with the very foundation, the idea of divine justice and how our actions literally shape our destiny. From there, we'll break down the 3 core commands that define the Prophet's mission, and that includes a fascinating look at what makes the city of Mecca so sacred. Then, we'll wrap it all up with the powerful warning and promise that frames this entire passage. Now, the source we're digging into today is a commentary by the contemporary philosopher Ayatollah Javadi Amoli. We're zeroing in on his interpretation of the final few verses of Surah An-Nam. That's the 27th chapter of the Quran, famously known as the Ant. And these verses, they serve as this incredibly profound conclusion to the entire chapter. Okay, so let's get started with verse 90. This verse really sets the stage for everything that's about to come. It establishes the core principle of divine justice, of accountability on the Day of Judgment. You know, the verse is incredibly stark and direct. It describes the fate of those who show up with evil deeds. But the commentary we're using, it really pushes us to look closer. It argues that the final question, are you recompensed except for what you used to do? That's not just a rhetorical flourish. No, it's the actual key to understanding the very nature of divine justice itself. So here's the absolute game changer that the commentary points out. In the afterlife, your deeds aren't just lines on a balance sheet that decide if you get rewarded or punished. It's much deeper than that. Your deeds themselves, they manifest. They become your reality. So the punishment isn't some external penalty for what you did. The punishment is the act itself, just in its final true form. And this concept actually has a name. It's called Tajassum al-Amal, or the embodiment of deeds. The commentary argues that this verse is one of the clearest proofs for it. From this perspective, the evil you do in this life literally becomes the fire that burns you in the next. Your actions don't just follow you around like a shadow, they become you, and this sets up a system of perfect, inherent justice where you can't escape the true nature of your own choices. So after laying down this fundamental principle of total accountability, the text makes a pivot. It shifts the focus onto the Prophet Muhammad himself, and it starts detailing the precise, specific nature of his mission. This is where the divine commands really kick in. The verse opens with the phrase, Innama umirtu. You might just read past that as a simple introduction, but hold on. According to this commentary, that first word, innama, is an incredibly powerful linguistic tool in Arabic. It basically anchors the entire meaning of everything that's about to be said. So what does innama do? Think of it like putting the word only or exclusively at the very beginning of a sentence and underlining it 3 times. It's a particle of restriction. So by starting with this word, the verse is making a huge statement. The Prophet's core mission, the absolute essence of his job, is being boiled down to only the 3 specific duties that are about to be listed. Everything else is secondary. And here they are, laid out crystal clear. These are the 3 exclusive commands that define the Prophet's purpose. First, an act of worship aimed at a very specific reality. Second, adopting a particular state of being. And third, engaging with the divine text. So now we're going to deconstruct each one of these based on the commentary. The first command is about worship, but it's framed in a really interesting way. To worship the Lord of this city. And that city is, of course, Mecca. So the commentary immediately asks the question, why the focus on a location? Why not just say worship the Lord of the worlds? Well, the answer is right in the next part of the verse. This brings us to a deep dive into the identity of God that's being presented here. The text is specifying not just any Lord, but the Lord who has this unique, special relationship with this one geographical spot, Mecca. And here's the defining characteristic, the thing that sets this Lord apart in this context. He is the one who has made it sacred. The Arabic term is haramaha. This act of making a place sacred is a purely divine power, and it's central to understanding what this first command is all about. So what is a haram? The commentary explains that a haram is a sanctuary set up by God, not by people. Within its boundaries, all fighting, all violence is completely forbidden. And it's not just people who are protected, so are the animals and even the plants. It's a divinely created zone of inviolable peace. To worship the Lord of this city is to acknowledge the one who has the power to do that. Now, here's where it gets really fascinating. The commentary draws this sharp distinction between Prophet Abraham, and Prophet Muhammad when it comes to Mecca's sacred status. See, Ibrahim prayed to God, "My Lord, make this a secure city." It was a request. But Prophet Muhammad is commanded to worship the Lord who has already made it sacred. This difference, the commentary points out, is theologically massive. It suggests Mecca's sanctity is an eternal divine act. It wasn't created because of a prayer. Ibrahim's prayer was actually acknowledging a divine will that already existed. So right after establishing this super specific connection to Mecca, the verse immediately zooms all the way out to the universal, with the phrase, "and to whom belongs all things." The commentary explains this is a teaching method. It's brilliant, really. You start with something tangible, something immediate, the sacred city the audience knows and understands. And then you pivot to the absolute, reminding them that the Lord of this one special place is in fact the Lord of absolutely everything. Okay, this brings us to the second pillar of the Prophet's mission, still under that exclusive umbrella of innama. And here, the command shifts from an outward action, worship, to an inward state of being. The second command is to be of the Muslims. Now, pay close attention to that phrasing. It doesn't just say to submit. It says to be of the Muslims, to be counted among them. The commentary stresses that this isn't about joining a social club. It's about embodying a fundamental spiritual state. So the crucial point here is the meaning of Muslim. In its deepest sense, the way it's used in this verse, it means someone who has reached a state of absolute submission, that's Islam, to the divine will. It's a complete surrender of your own ego, your desires, your will to God. So the Prophet isn't just commanded to worship God, but to live his entire life in this constant state of submission. And this leads us right to the third and final core command of the Prophet's mission. This one connects the worshiper and the submitted soul to the divine word itself. وَأَنْ أَتْلُوَ الْقُرْآنَ, and to recite the Qur'an. But just like with the other commands, the commentary urges us to look past the surface. What does it really mean to recite here? The commentary explains that the Arabic word used, tilawa, implies so much more than just making sounds with your mouth. It actually carries the meaning of following. So a true recitation is a whole sequence of events. First, you read the words correctly. Second, you understand what they mean. Third, you implement those teachings in your life. And finally, you share that message with others. It's a totally comprehensive process of engagement, not just a passive reading. And then the verse immediately tells you what the outcome of this recitation is and what the Prophet's specific role is. So whoever is guided is only guided for the benefit of his own soul. And whoever goes astray, say, I am only one of the warners. This is just such a brilliant illustration of free will and individual responsibility. Guidance is a personal choice, and the benefit comes right back to you. The Prophet's job isn't to force anyone to believe. His role is defined, and it's defined very strictly. He is a mundhir, a warner. He delivers the message, he explains the consequences, but that final choice, to accept or reject, that's on each and every person. We've now reached the very end of the passage, and the end of the surah itself. After laying out the Prophet's core mission so clearly, the text closes with one final, powerful, three-part statement that he is commanded to deliver. And say, all praise is due to Allah. He will show you his signs, and you will recognize them, and your Lord is not unaware of what you do. The commentary breaks this incredible final verse into three distinct declarations, and each one has massive implications. Okay, part one begins with Qul alhamdulillah. Say, praise be to God. This isn't just a casual thank you, it's a declaration of perfection. It's saying that this entire system, creation, revelation, the mission, the final judgment, it's all perfect, without a single flaw. It's the only logical thing to say once you grasp the wisdom behind it all. The second part is a promise. He will show you his signs, and you will recognize them. Now, the commentary interprets signs, or ayat, very broadly. This could be anything from future events and victories, to scientific discoveries that affirm the Quran, to the ultimate, undeniable signs you'll see on the Day of Judgment. The key takeaway is that the proof will just keep unfolding until the truth becomes impossible to ignore. And finally, the knockout punch. An emphatic statement of God's total awareness, and your Lord is not unaware of what you do. This brings us full circle, right back to that first verse about our deeds becoming our reality. It works on two levels. It's a chilling warning to anyone who's careless, because no action, no thought, no intention ever gets missed. And at the same time, it's a profound comfort to believers, because it guarantees that no good deed is ever lost and that perfect justice will be served.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we're left with this one big question to reflect on. When you see the prophet's mission defined so exclusively by just these three things, to worship, to submit, and to recite, and when that mission is bookended by the principles of embodied deeds and total divine awareness, how does that change how we see our own role, our own responsibilities, and that constant watchful presence of the divine?